guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great. I hope you're doing well. So today is going to be a story time of my first job in Canada. So relax, grab your wine, grab your water, grab your drink, grab whatever it is you want to drink at this moment and enjoy this story time. So before I moved to Canada, just for context, I used to work in one of the big four accounting firms back in Nigeria. So in my mind, I'm thinking I have this amazing experience, so I'm just going to, move. I'll probably get a job in like 1 to 2 weeks. I'm not going to stress. It'll be fine. I'll get a job when I move to Canada. So, I grabbed my bags and I moved. I remember the first week. So I think when I came with the mindset of I want to do something new. I want to do something different. Like I don't have to work in the accounting firm. I just want something new. So I wasn't really aggressively applying to any accounting firms. And again, I didn't know much about the recruitment because my second job I applied for in Nigeria, I got it, right? So I didn't know much about recruiting and how to properly place yourself to get a job. So I was just having fun applying randomly to companies. I didn't remember some of the companies I applied to. I just applied to any and everything. And I got no callbacks. I started to panic. So I started to panic and I'm like, let anybody just send me a message. I'm just going to go. So I got this mail one day and it's like, so I got this mail one wonderful afternoon saying you've been moved to the second stage, you've been invited for an interview. I couldn't remember applying to the company, but I'm like, okay, I really need a job. I'm just going to go for this interview. So obviously I pick up my phone. I'm new to Canada. I've been in Canada for 2 weeks, I think. So I picked up my phone, used the Google Maps to direct me to the place the next day. I get to this place. Obviously I'm dressed in proper, I think work pants with a really proper work top. I dressed corporate. I dressed very professional and official for this interview. So I go there. The first things I get to this place and I'm like, am I where I'm supposed to be? They were like drug addicts on the roadside. There was it was very dingy. It was very ghetto, to be honest. It was it was like a rundown place. But I'm like, Bisade, maybe this is just where they do their interviews. Because you're gullible at that point. I was still very new. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I'm like, maybe it's not that bad. It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. Just go in and see how it's like. So, I was scared, with all the drug guys and all the addicts and all the homeless people on the side of the road. It was very dirty and everything. And there were 2 floors. So I go up to the second floor. I opened the door and I just entered the reception. The reception was messy. There were people dressed in jeans and t-shirts. I was the most officially dressed person there. And I'm like, are these people here for an interview or are they just guests? Because I was very confused. I'm like, are these people just guests? And there were people younger than I was and maybe the same age and older, and I was just like, they have to be guests. They can't be here for the same interview I'm here for, all properly corporately dressed. So still trying to power through. I need a job. I'm just going to stop overthinking things. I go to the receptionist. I'm like, hi, my name is Bisade. I have an appointment for an interview. And she's like, oh yeah, sit down, relax. When it's your turn, I'll call you. And I just sit down, very, very, very uncomfortable, wondering, where am I? Where the hell am I? So I wasn't even interacting with the people beside me to even understand what this is. I honestly didn't even know what the organization really did because I couldn't really find them online because I tried to research, but I really couldn't find anything about them online, which I felt was weird. But I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a new tech company that's upcoming and they're looking for people to start up. So I just kept making explanations for everything I found that was really, really weird. So anyways, it was my turn for the interview and, the receptionist shows me the room. And, I have experience in accounting. I'm well prepared and ready to tell them, all the amazing things I did in Nigeria as an accountant, right? So I opened the door. The first thing I see is a dog running around in the office. I'm like, okay, what is happening over here? And she's like, hi, sorry, my dog is here. I couldn't put him anywhere. She gave one very weird excuse of how she couldn't find where to put her dog. I'm like, okay, I was like, oh, she was like, are you okay with dogs? And I grew up with dogs. I was like, oh yeah, it's fine. But then in my mind, I'm like, is this professional, or is this just how things are done here? And they're just more relaxed in Canada, and they're not too, professional and too uptight. Maybe I was just obviously making excuses and saying maybe this is how things are done here. So she's like, tell me about yourself, and I just go on. I'm like, I'm an accountant. I've done this and that, like, selling over my accounting experience. She's like, okay. Asking like one or two behavioral questions, and she's like, okay, yeah, we'll get in touch with you if you are, qualified for the next position. And and she's like, oh, thank you, you can go. It was a very, very brief interview, which also kind of worried me, because I'm like, shouldn't you be asking me things I have done as an accountant? Because in my mind, I'm like, they saw my CV, they saw my resume, they obviously know what I'm looking for. Like, I'm looking to be an accountant, and why are they not asking me questions in relation to that? So anyways, like, I'm like, I'm not going to overthink this. I need a job as soon as I can get one. I'm just going to be calm and just wait to hear back from them. Maybe in my next interview, it will be more detailed and, tell me about the role. And in my mind, I'm like, maybe this is how things are done. And maybe I should have asked questions more, but I was just like, I was still very timid and still not very sure of myself. And I'm like, and remember, I'm desperate for a job. Like, I really, really want a job at this point. So I'm like, I'm just going to be calm and not overthink this. So I go back home. 2 days later, I get a mail back from them saying I've been moved to the next stage of the interview. I should meet up with them at their office. So I come to the office, still professionally dressed, but maybe a tiny bit laid back, but still professionally dressed, because I'm just like, okay, maybe this is the real interview where they're going to like ask me all the questions, all the accounting questions. And I get there and they say, okay, I meet with a guy and a lady. And there was another guy who was also like pretty professionally dressed, probably an immigrant as well, waiting to get interviewed. So they say, you and this guy come with us and we'll take you to a coffee shop. So I'm like, okay, this is different. So I go to the coffee shop. I was seated. The other interviewee was seated beside me, and the two interviewers were seated opposite us. And the next thing they say is, so Bisade, can you tell me why I should hire you over this guy? And I'm like, what? Like, I've heard of these things where I have never seen it happen. Like, it's never happened to me. And I'm like, does this thing actually happen? And is this okay? So I'm like, and then in my head, I'm like, obviously spinning between the few seconds I had to answer the question. Like, am I supposed to bash this guy? I honestly don't even know this guy. I don't even know his name. I don't know anything about him. How am I going to answer this question? So I was like, sorry, could you repeat that question? The guy was like, yeah, could you tell me why we should hire you over this guy? Like, why are you better than this guy? Like, why should we pick you over this guy? And I'm like, I'm not going to bash this guy. So basically what I said was, I basically just sold myself, but didn't say anything negative about the guy. Like, hire me because for example, random, I can't remember exactly what I said, but like, I'm great, I'm fantastic, I'm a hard worker, I will get the job done. So I didn't bash the guy, I just basically sold myself, and the guy did practically the same thing I did. And then after the conversation, they started to say the things we're going to do, and I'm like, so they started saying things like, so this is like so it was sort of like a pyramid program where they were saying, in the first stage, they had the name for it, I can't remember, like a marketer. The next stage, after you've done marketing for a couple of months, you move to trainer. After you join trainer for a couple of months, you move to manager. But because it was so new to me, and the only job I had done was office job, I'm like, I still didn't fully understand what they were saying. And of course, I didn't still ask any questions. Oh, okay, I heard. And they're like, okay, so we'll get back to you for the next stage of the interview process. So I was like, okay, thank you. And the guy got up and we left. So the next, and just to give context, this was during the winter period, and this will make sense as I go on. So this was during the winter period. So I think towards the end of winter, beginning of spring. So it was still pretty cold, and it was like rain. It was still like the rainy season and stuff. So we go back home. Then a couple of days later, they sent me an email and said, I've been moved to the next stage of the interview, and this will be the final stage. So on that day, because in my mind, I'm thinking it's an interview, right? So I'm just going to go in there, sit down for the interview, and when I'm done, I'm going to leave. So I wore these heeled boots, probably about 3.5 inches. Wore like jeans, because obviously now I know like they're pretty casual. So I wore like jeans and like a sweater with a jacket, and I was off for my interview. So I get to the office and they're like, so this interview, we're going to take you on field. And I'm like, what is on field? Like, what do you mean by on field? And yeah, we're going to take you on field and we're going to show you what it is you'll be doing. Meanwhile, at this point, I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm just there waiting, just hoping for a job. So I'm like, oh, okay. We entered this guy's car, and I think it was just me I think I was the only person training with this guy on that. No, there were two of us. There were two, I and one other guy. We were both the two trainees going with the manager at this time. He was the manager. So we enter into his car, and then he drives us into this huge store. This store is huge. I don't know how to be able, but it was huge. And I'm with my heeled boots. We get down, and then he's like, so today I'm going to train you on how to market. So basically, this company was a marketing company for other companies. So you know how, like, for example, if you're you might not know this except you're in Canada, but we have like the Capital One credit card. So for example, various companies would have their own credit card where you can get like rewards, points, there's cashback rewards. There's certain rewards that, come with that company's credit card, right? Like the PC Optimum credit card, the Capital One credit card, which varies company by company. So these are not to banks, but it's basically company issuing their own credit cards for using in their own stores where you get multiple rewards and all of that. So basically, this job I was recruiting for was to market those credit cards in a store. And I'm not bashing anyone that does this job, but just keep in mind that I've never done anything like this. I've never been exposed to anything like this. So I'm just like, how am I going to do this? So he goes on and like he's giving us like a brief training, takes us into the locker room to put our stuff down. And he says, so you're going to go up to people and you're going to market the credit card. And then he gives us this machine and like, how like if you meet someone, the person is interested, you can issue the credit card, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, what? Like me, Bisade, I don't know how to do this. How am I going to do this? And then I was like, so do you get paid for this job? And it's like, at the beginning stage, you get paid based on commission. And I'm like, that's the end. I will be broke because I know I'm not going to make any sale. So that started to worry me. But I'm like, okay, Bisade, calm down. Give this a try. We're all about trying new things. We're in a new country. We're going to do new things and, learn new things about ourselves. So after he gives us the training with my heel, I was walking around the store. My legs were dying. Oh my God. I was in pain, but I'm like learning new things, meet people. Hi, my name is Bisade. I'm probably like, no, I'm not interested. No, not interested. No, I'm not interested. I went downstairs and I just cried for a few minutes. I'm like, what is my life? Like, what am I doing with myself? Like, I had such a great job in Nigeria, such an amazing job in Nigeria. I moved countries, and is this what is going to happen to me? Like, am I going to be stuck doing this and not be able to find a good job and not be able to, do big things or do good things, do great things? That's what I mean. Like, is this where I'm going to be stuck struggling? It's like, is this the end of my career? Like, this isn't even related to the things I was doing in Nigeria. This is not in the accounting line. And at that point, I really did care about my career and my career progression. So I was worried, like, is this the end? I put myself up together. I went back and said, okay, I'm going to push. I'm going to try. What pushed me was I went to meet this older guy, and I'm like, hi. I'm trying to. He's like, fuck off. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck off. Don't fucking talk to me. And honestly, I had never, ever been spoken to like that. Never been spoken to in such a degrading manner and looked at with such disgust. He's like, fuck you, fucking get out of my face. Like, after he said all that, like, obviously I was scared. So I like ran away. Like, I moved away from him real fast. I didn't come closer. And then I went downstairs and I bawled my eyes out. Like, I cried. Like, just imagine, like, I'm struggling. I'm in heels, in so much pain. My feet was in so much pain. I had not gotten one sale. Nobody, not one person had taken my had listened to any of my whatever I had to say, and I'm like, I'm supposed to do this, and this is how I'm supposed to make money. I just cried. I cried so much. I remember calling my mom and telling her, yo mom, this is what's happening, and she's like, leave the job. She's like, if it's not like, it's not worth it, like you have such a good job, you're going to get a good job, leave, like you don't have to do this. You know, she kind of both, because I had been thinking about, should I just go home? Should I just go home? Like, it's at least this is a trial stage interview. Let me go home and have a think about, like, is this really what I want to do? And if it's something I can manage to do, or I would like to try, I can come back the next day. And if it's something I don't want to do, I can just tell them I'm not interested. So, you know, as I spoke to my mom, I got more confident, and then I ended the call, I went back upstairs, obviously cleaned my face. And I went to meet the manager, and I'm like, hi, I don't think I want to do this. Like, I think, no, what I said was, hi, like, you know, I'm tired, like, I'm thinking of going home and resting. Like, you know, I didn't expect that we were going to do this today. And the next thing this guy tells me is like, if you leave, you can't come back. I'm like, sorry? He's like, yeah, if you leave now, you can't get the job. Like, that's the end. You cannot come back. It's over. And I'm like, yes, I'm tired. Yes, I want to leave. You know, at that point, I was just frustrated, because I'm like, there's a chance people will still continue to speak to me in such a rude manner. And number two, like, it was clear it wasn't my like, this wasn't something that I was good at, even that I'm not even interested in. So I was telling the guy that, yeah, it's fine, I want to go home. I was like, are you sure? Like, if you go, you're not going to get this job again. If you go, it's done, it's over, you can't come back, you can't get this job, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care, I want to go home. And he kept trying to convince me and say, you know, why are you going home? Just try harder. Like, you know, most people want to go on the first day. Like, even me on my first day on getting this job, I wanted to go home, but I pushed through. That, you know, you will learn on the job. It's usually hard. I'm like, thank you very much for this speech, but I am going home. I'm not doing it again. I remember this guy brought me here. Like, I didn't come here myself. He drove us there. I'm new to Canada. I didn't even know how to get, like, I had to use my map, because I wasn't still very conversant with, like, how the buses worked. I wasn't conversant with anything, to be honest, when it came to transportation. And to make it worse, that day was raining hail. Like, ice was like falling from the sky. So just imagine me in my hideous wig on that day with my heels and just struggling in the snowstorm or in the hailstorm. It was such a horrible day for me, but that was my first job in Canada, which I just did a few hours, and I never ever went back to it. And thankfully, after that job, I was able to get, you know, better job offers. But yeah, that's my story time, and that was my first job in Canada. So I hope you liked and enjoyed this video. Please comment, please like, please subscribe, and please share this video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.